Okay, so I wanted to say a little bit about where this word over-tourism came from, because it hasn't been around too long. It started really in in 2017-18 with some protests in Barcelona organised by an anarchist youth group called Aranja Vent. The protests were incredibly small. In some cases, 2 or 3 people jumping on a tour bus, for people going on a tour to the Nou Camp Stadium, throwing paint around and so on. I think the biggest they managed was about 30 people on a beach. However, this term, within 6 months, certainly within a year, became part of the language of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, the World Economic Forum, numerous NGOs, and virtually every geographer that I know commissioned a book on it straight away to say how terrible tourism was. I was the exception to that. Anyway, very, very quickly, in 2018, the term began to be applied very, very widely. And some of the various things have been mentioned there. Dubrovnik, Thailand, the Isle of Skye, very, very different kind of places, Venice, Edinburgh. Jump forward to today, we've had protests a little bit bigger, not much bigger, depending who you listen to, between about 3,000 and 8,000 people behind a banner saying mass tourism kills the city. Organised by the Neighbourhood Assembly for Degrowth. Okay. How popular are these kind of ideas within Barcelona itself? How far do they represent a kind of bottom-up, if you like, populist sentiment amongst the ordinary people? Fortunately, the Barcelona government published a very handy yearly opinion poll, which gives us some insight into this. Last year, when they did this poll, 71% of people said that tourism was beneficial versus 17% against. For Catalonia as a whole, 83% of people said it was beneficial against 8%. 61% of people did say that Barcelona was close to the limits that it can take. And this is what I'm using Barcelona as an example here, and other places can be very, very different to this. 36% of people said Barcelona should attract more people, and 50% of people said the region round and about should attract more, with 30% against. Only 13% of people thought that tourism was a major contributor to antisocial behaviour, and perhaps surprisingly, only 16% of people thought it was a substantial contributory factor in apartment prices, which has obviously been a very important thing. So we have to put these things in crisis, but I've no doubt tourism being a kind of unique industry that involves people travelling and accommodation. You buy any other product, or if countries export any other product, it travels from one to another. You don't have that kind of cultural encounter. So there are very real issues there. But I think we have to put these things in the context of an industry that's brought a lot of incredibly good things, that's helped cities like Barcelona transition, and deal with the sort of deindustrialization that they were that was happening regardless of tourism. And I really think when we approach these questions, we've got to try and have our cake and eat it. Have tourism and address some of the negative things, not one or the other. And I think that's the problem with some of the debate.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed.